Hi and welcome to the Fancy Comma YouTube. So today I'm going to be talking about becoming an investigative journalist of the Epstein Files, what it's like to pivot into investigative journalism from science, and just give you like a flavor of what this process has been like to do my investigative journalism. I have like 5 minutes. So I just did a video about Barney Frank, and I realized I forgot to look him up in the Epstein Files because I've been looking up everyone in the Epstein Files. And he did have 15 mentions. And one of them was, actually several of them, was this email thread between Jeffrey Epstein and some redacted person that was like, I just talked to Barney Frank. Do you want to know what I just talked about with him? And Jeffrey Epstein was like, sure. And so now I'm like, that's my challenge now, is like figuring out like, what do these mentions in the Epstein files mean? Is it necessarily bad if you are mentioned by Jeffrey Epstein? I would say that if he mentions you, like name drops you, that doesn't necessarily like implicate you in any crimes. Even someone that knows Jeffrey Epstein talking to Barney Frank doesn't necessarily implicate Barney Frank in Epstein's like crime ring. In fact, because Jeffrey Epstein was so influential, he associated with everyone. So that's kind of the problem though, because I discovered my own professor. So when you go to the Department of Justice website, you can search for anything. So the first thing I searched for just MIT. And then I found all these people, or maybe I searched for Harvard. I used to work at the Martino Center. So I searched for Martino Center. And then I found this. My old professor, Mark Tremo, he actually taught a class at Harvard, but he also was affiliated with MIT because this is Harvard's logo. This is Massachusetts General Hospital, which is now Mass Brigham, I think. Harvard, the collaborative MD PhD program between MIT and Harvard. And then I don't know what in the world this is, and that's obviously MIT. So he was all about doing music and brain science. So I like found this guy in there and I was like, oh wow, that's so weird. I took a class with him. And so I made this. So at first I made this reel and I looked up all these other people from like MIT and I searched for Harvard. I searched for all my workplaces and I found a bunch of names I recognized. So then the next thing I did was I emailed the Tech, which is MIT's campus newspaper. And I was like, hey, did you know all these people are in the Epstein files? Like it was the new drop that was released on like February 2nd, I think. They wrote me back really fast. And they're like, hey, we're working on an article about this. I was like, oh, this is so weird and chaotic. I wonder what this all means. I feel so weird about this. So I recorded a reel and then I posted it on Fancy Comma's Instagram. And then that went like viral. And I was like, wow, these people are really interested in my professor being in the Epstein files, which I only took one class with him and it was like a seminar. And the one weird thing was he would always fall asleep in class because he was a neurologist. So I think he would see patients by day and then maybe just like not sleep. And he would always be drinking like Diet Coke. And we had a TA that we also had in the class. And believe it or not, like one time he made a comment and I was like, this comment is so weird. And all the students looked around and were like, isn't that kind of like a weird double entendre that's like kind of sketchy? And I guess he thought it was totally normal. But then that's what got him fired, was saying something about like babies or something to Jeffrey Epstein. And I guess this situation at Harvard was much more involved than we could really know. And that's kind of like what all the blogs, I'll link to the blogs, Substack articles, all the short form videos I've been creating in my spare time. Like I'm so tired in some of them. You can read the Epstein files. And I would say AI tools are useful to some extent, but if you really want to know like who's doing what, like exactly without getting like glossed over, you have to read through them individually. And that's what I've been doing. One day I read like half of MIT's mentions in the Epstein files, which is like thousands and thousands. It's kind of like if you're an obsessive person, investigative journalism like that is like actually a really good fit for your personality. Because I'm one of those people, I'm never satisfied with the amount of information that's available to me. I feel like there always should be more information. And there's always questions that I have. And that's kind of why I got into science, because I was so curious. And once I left science, I was like, there's no job that will make me feel as happy and fulfilled and like fulfill my curiosity as much as science. But investigative journalism is basically that. And even with data, and even like it is basically the same thing, same skills, different venue. And I was really inspired by this journalist I found online that recently was a scientist, and I'll link to her article and her Substack that she wrote about her process, which was actually really sad because her grandma died in the middle of her reporting. So she was like grieving, but she was also like using that to power through the chaotic journalism moments of her career. Because, you know, as a journalist, your entire story depends on who you're able to get to talk to you and what sources you can have. And sometimes it feels very tenuous. Like, is my source going to write back to me? Are they not going to write back to me? Like, that can be very stressful. Sometimes if you don't have enough information, you can't do your story. But sometimes you get lucky and people that you don't think are going to talk to you actually take the time out of their day to tell you about this so that other people can basically know about whatever the topic is. So yeah. So investigative journalism has been really interesting. I didn't know it was investigative journalism to read the Epstein Files when I started doing this. I just wanted to know who all was in the Epstein Files when I was in college, and it turns out like pretty much a lot of professors were. And I'm still trying to pitch different publications, but there's so much news happening that it's not quite possible. But I keep persevering, asking different questions. We've published a lot of blogs about the Epstein Files, different scientists involved in the Epstein Files, discovered a few things about scientists that really need to be investigated further, but so far haven't. A bunch of people have resigned, including my former professor that used to sleep in class, in his own class, where he was the professor. Does that necessarily implicate you in the Epstein Files to sleep through a class? Probably not. If I could sleep through a class I taught, I might. But then who would teach the class? Is that a question that should have been asked but never was? Make sure to follow our videos for more insightful, hard-hitting, incisive analysis like this. And also check out all of my Epstein Files reporting. I'll put them all in the description box. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Have an amazing summer. We'll still be here. I don't know why I said it like that. Until next time.